This Marina Life with MDL Marinas.
Hello and welcome to This Marina Life with me, Ceri Hurford-Jones and MDL Marinas. In this episode, you'll get to hear about where you can keep your boat safely and securely as I meet up with 3 different boat owners who keep their boats in one of the many MDL marinas on the south coast. Whilst talking to them, I also got some top location suggestions for anchoring in the Solent area, along with some great marinas that they really like to visit. I also had the pleasure to chat with Barry Radband, the marina manager of MDL Shamrock Quay. He shared some insights into the marina world as it evolves for the future. First up, let's hear from Adam Brown, who told me all about his experiences of finding a berth for his 39-foot westerly Sea Lord. I started our chat by asking him why he particularly chose Shamrock Quay on the River Itchen as his home berth.
So I lived in Southampton, so for us, Shamrock Quay was the perfect place to berth. Accessible by all states of tide, close to home, and plenty of places in the Solent to go to with not much distance as well, so that's really good.
So MDL Marina, Shamrock Quay was what you chose. The experience there then, clearly a positive one. You wouldn't have stayed there as long as you did. They obviously were there to help in any situation, and let's face it, with boats there's always something that happens.
There is. They were absolutely fantastic. But we actually had an issue when we were getting our boat ready for a UK circumnavigation. We got lifted out to do the usual maintenance that we all have to do. And then on the drop back in, we went down below to check, any water ingress and things like that. And unfortunately, a seacock that we hadn't touched had been leaking. So that meant coming back out again. So I rushed up to see the team in the office there, and they were absolutely amazing. They said, don't worry, leave it with us. We'll have you out as soon as we possibly can. I think they went to other people on the list to be dropped in or lifted out. Asked everyone, are you on time? Is it okay to push you further back because we've got this boat that needs to come out? And I thought that was just exceptional service, and they did eventually get us out very quickly, and we were able to get that mended and then get on our way. So that was excellent.
What was the problem?
We have the old Blake Seacocks, so you can service them, but the actual hull fitting had, for some reason, the caulking had shifted or moved, and it was just a slight drip down the side of the Seacock. So a very strange one. I'm not really sure how or why that happened, but in some ways it's a good thing it did happen there at the marina so that we could get it sorted.
It's called having a boat, Adam, isn't it, really? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And having sailed up and down Southampton Water a few times and into the Solent, favourite anchorages? Where would you recommend to somebody to go and actually anchor, enjoy and make the most of the area?
Well, for me, the number one spot, and I think for many people in the Solent, is probably Newtown Creek. Very peaceful, very tranquil, seals, plenty of bird life, absolutely amazing. Great sunsets there as well, might add. But there's also Bewley River. That was really nice. They have a couple of very cheap mooring buoys at the entrance to the river. This is to sort of help regenerate the seabed because anchoring has damaged the grasses and things like that at the beginning of the river. So there's a couple of cheap mooring buoys there that we used to pick up. But the great thing about the Solent is everything's so close together. So if we were coming back down Southampton River back to Shamrock Quay, you can pop into Hamble, refuel, so you've got a full tank on the way back. So that was a really good benefit of being on the Solent.
And quite a nice jumping off point for other journeys, because you're on a journey as we speak, aren't you?
That's right. We're 3/4 of our way around the UK circumnavigation. It's been a great adventure and a great challenge as well.
We'll hear more of that story, I'm sure, another day. Let's just look again in a bit more detail about MDL, because there's lots of positivities for being there. So what other things could they improve on? Perhaps there's something that you'd like to see more of.
Well, they are a very good team. The marina facilities are brilliant. So really, just the trolley of treats could come round a bit more often with a few beers and some cakes.
You don't often see or hear that being done anywhere else. So I think it is a nice little added bonus, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I've not seen that or heard of it done in any marinas. And I think on the bank holidays is when they tend to do it. It's great for families. I see lots of people bringing their kids down and having a good fun. So that's a really nice gesture that they do, I think.
So in conclusion, Adam, for today's episode, recommendation, thought, perhaps to somebody who is thinking about keeping their boat at an MDL marina, what would you say to them?
I would say 100%. You will not be looked at depending on what size your boat you've got. If you've got a small 26-foot boat, if you've got a 56-foot Princess motorboat, you will be treated exactly the same. And Many of the staff at Shamrock Quay we now consider friends. You know, we came there, they shook my hand, welcomed me to the river, which I thought was very nice. And then just as we got to know them with the nights out for the marinas that they do, you know, we do consider some of them good friends now.
My next guest is Barry Radband, the marina manager of MDL Shamrock Quay. I began by asking him what his personal connection was to the sea.
Oh, I would probably be described as a water baby. I was born in Hamble. My family still live in Hamble, and I have moved to another part of the region, Lyon, the Solent, and again facing the water. So I've never been more than a few minutes away from the water's edge, be that in my personal and my professional career.
So Barry, your marina, Shamrock Quay in Southampton, talk to me a little bit about the offering that you and your team have there.
So Shamrock Quay is a marina which offers various aspects to our boating fraternity. So we have a marina of 250 berths. We also have various marine-related businesses on site, so marine electronics, marine engineers, sail loft and the such. And we also have a large lifting and storage ashore operation underway at Shamrock Quay. So we're able to lift in the region of 900 to 1,000 boats a year, place them ashore for winter maintenance and refits, and just a little bit of time out over the winter for our customers to prep their boats ready for the following season.
Yeah, we do love prepping our boats, Barry, as you know. You see us out there in all winds and weathers, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to admire the enthusiasm of some of our customers who are literally out there in all weathers.
And of course it's all about the team, and it seems you've got a great team there at Shamrock Quay.
Yes, I am very lucky to have a settled and professional team around me. We have 10 individuals work at Shamrock Quay, and their service records range from 5 years right through to 40 years, all with MDL, the majority of which has been at Shamrock Quay for most of those. So they know the business well, they know our customers well on a personal front as much as a business front.
So the setup that you have there, it sounds great for berth holders wanting to spend some time. What about visitors, Barry? How is the visitor attraction from your perspective? How does that work?
It's very different to probably what we would term as a busy visitor destination. We have visitor berthing available. We are able to accommodate literally every inquiry we receive for visitor berthing, and we can take boats up to 90 metres in length within the marina, and generally speaking we have a healthy turnover of visiting boats visit us from all regions of the UK and abroad. We have some French and some Dutch and some German boats which visit us on a regular basis throughout the year.
Perhaps you could remind us about some of the most common facilities offered by marinas these days, and what are the biggest changes or improvements that you've personally seen over the last 5 years?
Oh, we've seen marinas adapt and meet customer demands. So some of the biggest improvements and some of the most common facilities that are requested these days are obviously good quality showers and toilet facilities, laundry facilities within the marinas, access to consistent, stable Wi-Fi that's high speed, chandleries, restaurants, bars, even going through to the modern technology changes which we're now seeing and adapting to, which is the installation of electric car chargers and such like, to ensure that that experience for our customer is an enjoyable one. We can cater for their needs and their requirements, and they remember Shamrock Quay and the wider boating community as the place to visit and the place to be.
Now, it's always been a bit of a challenge on the south coast finding somewhere for lunchtime, but particularly for overnight stays. We've all seen this as becoming a bigger and bigger problem over the last few years, particularly post-COVID. Would you agree?
Yes, especially. It's had two factors really. So the effect of Brexit saw a huge influx of boats returning from Europe, and then shortly followed by the pandemic and COVID, we saw marina occupancy growth levels increase even further. So on the back of that, that has meant that most marinas are either at capacity or near capacity. We do rely on our customers to vacate their berths in order to take visiting boats in, And MDL have introduced a number of new initiatives for our customers and visitors through the My MDL app, which is on our website, to facilitate that rotational traffic and that cruising ground. Our customers will go off down to the West Country or to the East Coast. They can now book their berthing requests online. Berth holders within our marinas who book out through the My MDL platform are incentivised if they're cruising outside of the MDL network if we use their berth. So those kind of adaptations are freeing up space within marinas, which we wouldn't traditionally know about because we are ever so reliant on our customers informing us of their cruising intentions.
And that's the nub of the matter. You don't know what you don't know. And you are relying on people telling you when they're away for a week or 10 days or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so we send out, as a group, we send out regular reminders via email. We post it on social media. They are incentivised. If they vacate their berth, we use their berth in their absence, and they're outside of the network, then they will receive some rewards back into their account for them to use on future purchases within MDL. So it frees up vacant berths within marinas. Enables us to use them for visiting boats, and likewise further down the line the same scenario falls into place at our other marinas. They know the same situations are occurring, they're able to know what berths they've got and take in future visitors and visiting customers from MDL.
Yeah, it relies on people telling people what's going on, doesn't it? Really, that's it at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and we can never legislate for weather. We do understand that weather plays a big part, so there are those kind of changes and challenges which crop up at times. With best will, you can indicate that you're leaving your berth, but plans change, weather changes, and we just adapt to those as and when we become aware of it. So for customers coming back early, we'll ensure that their berth, where possible, is empty for them to return to, so that it doesn't have an impact on their enjoyment.
So what are the expectations then of boat owners, boat users, when they visit Shamrock, Quay or any other marina for that matter, do you think?
I think customers' expectations are set pretty high. We all remember marinas of the 80s and the 90s, and now marinas are adapting and they're trying to meet those expectations. So good quality facilities, as I mentioned earlier, showers, laundry, consistent Wi-Fi, easy links to places of interest within the local area. That's a big part now because it's a family orientated leisure activity. This is going to be their home for the next day, the next 2 days or a week or even longer. So the marina team want to make that experience enjoyable. Alongside this, we have seen some considerable changes within the marinas and some adaptation to meet requirements from families for the future market, and those are very well in our marinas at the moment. So it's a good opportunity. Owners know what they want. We try to provide it. We try to provide that first class service. If you've got a knowledgeable professional team working within the marina, there's not much that we can't accommodate.
From a personal perspective, I can speak with authority that the impression we always get with your team is that actually nothing is too much trouble.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Thank you. It's we do have some very, very rewarding customers who are honest with their appraisal of us, and it's really nice to get good feedback. So thank you for that.
Now, here's a question for you. What would marina operators like from their visitors, do you think?
For us, from our perspective, from this side of the table, we try to make your visit as easy and as comfortable and as enjoyable as possible. You can now book your next stay online. And alongside this, if we can glean any specific berthing requirements in regards to your preference in mooring, do you want to be bows in, stern in, port to or starboard side to, the actual boat length, type of boat helps. Is it a sail? Is it a motor? This allows those marinas, especially those busy visitor destination marinas, to allocate the appropriate berths and manage the required period of stay. You'll often be met on the pontoons by one of the dockmasters looking to take your lines or assist you alongside. And that becomes the norm, and that's what's expected.
Indeed. You know what? When you're out there and you're bashing away into some weather and you come out the other side, just as you start getting into a marina, you're sort of pretty tired and perhaps just two of you on board, as is often the case. There's actually nothing better than somebody saying, "Can I take a line from you?" or "Hello, welcome, nice to see you. Here's a shower code, off you go." It's the small things that make a huge difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just those little touches, that little face on the pontoon, someone waiting to take your lines, they get you settled in, you don't have to do anything, and you could just relax and especially when it's an unfamiliar marina to you. The uncertainty going into a marina with a tide underneath you, the wind in the wrong direction. This is the part the marina managers and the marina dock teams play in making your visit as enjoyable as possible. We'll look at the tides, we'll look at the wind conditions, we'll look at the type of boat and which way you want to moor it before we issue a berth number, so that we're getting you into the appropriate berth for your boat and for the conditions at the time.
Yeah, get that. Nice work. And let's face it, the world of boating never runs smooth. There's always something that needs attention and fixing. Now, you've got a pretty good setup at your marina, as do many others. It enables people to literally deal with any problems. Or you can certainly put them in touch with people that can help them deal with their issues, can't you?
Yeah, we have quite an extensive network. If it's not based at Shamrock, Quay, we know of people within our other marinas, within the group, who can pretty much do anything for any boat owner. And it will range from just sail repairs through to marine electronics, through to complete refits and anti-fouling and valeting, and all those little bits and pieces that take up everyone's time. Time is precious, and sometimes just need a specialist person to look at it. So we've got a really good group of individuals here, individual tenants within Shamrock Quay. We've got a very extensive network throughout the MDL group and outside of MDL as well that we utilise, and we can always assist an owner if they've got a problem. Let us know, let us see what we can do to assist you and put you in touch with the right people.
Yeah, indeed. Communication. Can I actually ask how MDL is specifically improving the boat owners' experience in marinas now and in the future, Barry?
Well, the staff undergo regular training, and investment in our staff is critical. We want the right people in the right roles within the marine industry. So investment in our staff is a big factor. Having those industry professional people working within the marinas helps us greatly and helps our customers. We don't see a great turnover of staff throughout the marinas, and improving the infrastructure, ranging from currently here this week or next week, they're about to install the latest Wi-Fi at Shamrock Quay. That's Wi-Fi 6. That's a really big upgrade for us. Purchasing new yard equipment to assist with that boat movement operation throughout the winter months when we're putting stuff ashore. Big investment in replanking, reconfiguring, or even marina rebuilds to accommodate the modern market. Boats are getting bigger, deeper, wider. Many of the marinas were built 30, 40 or plus years ago. Now they're finding those marina berths are not suitable for the size of the boats that are now coming into the market. So marinas are having to adapt. They're having to move forward. They're investing heavily in modern technologies and reconfiguring their marinas to almost future-proof them for the current climate and for the next 30, 40, 50 years. However long that may be.
Now, in some ways, you've actually already answered the next question, but I just wonder if there's anything else to add about what you see are the biggest challenges for marina and marina operators over the next decade, on top of what you've just said. So, here's your crystal ball then, Barry. Off you go.
Aside from accommodating changing boats within the market, we've got electric boat charging points being installed. That's the next step, next thing that is coming along. That will be big. I'm sure it'll be as big as the car industry with electric vehicles. We've obviously got the current economic uncertainty, utilities costs and costs outside of our control. There's not much we can do about that other than source elsewhere, but then there's the supply chain issues. But the biggest picture really is encouraging new boaters to the market. That new boater, the person that always wanted to buy a boat, always wanted to be on the water, but has never quite been able to afford to, or had the time to. So encouraging those people to the market, they're the key things, and this is why we're trying to offer variety with lodges at some of our marinas, or floating accommodation, or water sports activities. It's a dip your toe in the water and see how you feel moment. And if we can make that family friendly, then that is the answer to where we're going to be in the next 10 years.
Yeah, and if there is somebody currently berthing with another marina operator in the UK who wanted an overnight stay with you guys, just give you a call, drop you an email.
Just give us a call and we will accommodate at Shamrock Quay, and generally speaking we can accommodate most requests, even if it's for a short-term or a long-term stay. We've got a wonderful restaurant and bar and cafe on site and lots of facilities for everyone to enjoy.
Next up is Carol Jones. She's kept both a 26-foot and her current 35-foot sailing boat at an MDL marina on the south coast. I really wanted to know why she made the decision to keep her boats at a marina owned and operated by MDL.
Well, I think people work hard in order to have their boat, whether it's a sailboat or a motorboat, and you're not going to be there all the time. So MDL, I think, is a marina that you can walk away from knowing your boat is well looked after.
Why should somebody choose MDL specifically, do you think?
Well, I can only imagine that MDL go through some really good training for customer service purposes, because we've always been treated with respect, and any issues, and to be fair, they've only ever been very small ones, have always been dealt with in the best possible way. And in addition to that, when we first had our boat moored there, we had very young children who now are speaking as young adults to members of staff, some of which were there when they were really little, and they remember them, and they remember them with fondness. And you can't lie to children, so they must be doing something very right.
And what boats have you actually kept in your home at MDL Marina?
Well, 2005 saw us take our first boat into an MDL Marina, and we've never looked back. We started off with a Sadler 26, moored broadside to, as she was just a tiddler, and then when we went to a 35-foot boat, we were on a finger pontoon.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the places you could go, you have been and visited around the Solent area that hold particular resonance for you.
Okay, well, there are so many. There are so many places that you can go and stay overnight, and there are so many places also that you can just pick up a lunchtime stop. So if you're out for a weekend and you want to see more than just one place, I rather like Osborne Bay. It can sometimes be a little bit rolly, but if you choose your weather well and you pop yourself in there when the wind's not too strong, drop your anchor, it's good holding, we've never had any issues in there, and if you're lucky, you might hear the most wonderful sound of the chimes of an ice cream boat. Yep, that's right, I've not been on the G&T. Genuinely, there is an ice cream boat that comes into Osborne Bay.
Its attractions are not always listed inside a pilot book. Now, your home berth is Shamrock Quay. What about other MDL marinas to visit for a lunchtime stop or an overnight? Any particular recommendations?
Okay, so you've got 3 MDL marina on the Hamble. So if you can't get into one, there's others there that you can try. Some lovely walks around that area, some really nice little pubs as well. Chichester. Also, if you're going around, if you're taking a left by Portsmouth, there's Chichester, and further on to the other side, you've got them far down as Plymouth. So I know that's not a lunchtime stop, but, you know.
Depending on what boat you've got.
Absolutely.
You can tell we're talking to a sailor rather than a motorboat. Or a motorboat would go, yeah, Crossline Bay, 5-6 hours, no problems at all. For a sailing boat, a little longer. So that's some of your favourite anchorages. Thank you for all of those. Something we always like to ask our guests, particularly those that have owned a boat for a while, is there one thing that you wish you'd have known then that you now know now about boat ownership?
Yes. You're never, ever going to get all those jobs done on your list. You think you will, but you don't. They get added to, and then sometimes you'll have a really busy day and think, great, I can tick some things off of my list now, only to find that the things you've done that day weren't actually even on there. So go with the flow, do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Don't worry about the stuff that doesn't matter. Go sailing, enjoy the weather, because those jobs will get done when they need to be.
My final guest today is Mark Pomeroy. He spent over 50 years on the water in one way, shape or form, including 37 years in the Royal Navy. He's a qualified commercial yacht master who with his wife now spends many happy months at sea exploring the waters both at home and abroad. I started our chat by getting him to tell me all about his nautical pride and joy.
My boat is a Naiad 391. It's a very stately boat. It's centre cockpit, and our choice of boat is more about safety, comfort, ease of handling with a short-handed crew. And also, I think the design of my particular boat, the Naiad 391, does actually look quite nice in the marina.
And that's always a lovely thing to be able to just turn around and look at the top of the ramp and go, yep, that's my girl.
Very true indeed. But that said, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, it takes a bit of work to keep them looking like that.
And you're an MDL berth holder. That's why we're connecting today. Where are you berthed at the moment, Mark?
Currently, I'm berthed in Shamrock, Quay. I've been in Shamrock, Quay now for 3 years, but prior to that, I was in Port Hamble.
What made you choose there for your home berth?
I like to be able to get to the boat quickly, and fundamentally from where I currently live to Shamrock, it only takes me 45 minutes and I can be engine started and out on the water. So that's a real bonus. I'm not keen on having to travel great distances to get to the marina to get to the boat.
There is something about that, just getting on and get going. And let's face it, that's the reason many of us use marinas in the first place, is because we don't want to mess about with dinghies, do we?
Exactly.
The whole joy there, of course, is you can get some decent sailing down Southampton water without even going out into the Solent, can't you?
You can, absolutely. I mean, and coming from my sort of background, I always quite enjoy going down Southampton water and, large, huge container ships and lots of other sailors. And when you get down towards the Hamble River, there's always lots of excitement there.
Many of us have been sailing that area and know exactly what you mean by that. But that's the fun of it, and it's great to see so many people out enjoying themselves, isn't it?
It is, and it's amazing how many people are out in boats and enjoying themselves. Just my experience this summer of doing our cruise that we've done this summer, huge amounts of people are out there enjoying themselves. With everything else that goes on in the world currently, that's a good thing.
I can completely agree. So lots of advantages to you to keeping your boat with an MDL. I always like to sort of have a balanced view on these episodes, that we look at both sides of the coin. Are there perhaps one or two things that MDL could perhaps improve a little on from a berth holder's perspective?
Well, I think whilst customer service is an area I was going to mention, because I think whilst my home marina, Shamrock Quay, is very good, and I had a good relationship with the team at Port Hamble, it's not absolutely consistent across all marinas. And I think that's an area where MDL could put a little bit more focus on to make sure that we all feel as welcome as each other in all of the marinas within the MDL organisation. So I'd like to see the same approach in all sites. I think there's a definite benefit. Obviously, costs are always going to go up, but I think, I'd like to see MDL look at cost reductions or better deals, especially for long-standing berth holders, or maybe berth holders who are prepared to pay, if they can, I know this is a first world problem, but 2 or 3 years in advance, so that you've got, certainty of berth, and you've got a good price and it's a fixed price, and that would help. And I think I do have a couple more, if I may.
This is your moment to shine, Mark.
What I would love to see is more marinas in the UK, i.e. Scotland, because MDL is very much southwest focused at the moment, and it would be great to see a sort of strategic plan for them, maybe to have a few more marinas where we could use within the various packages that they offer, Freedom Berthing or OTM, I think the new one is, that we could use. I think that would be great.
One thing we like to talk about with our guests, Mark, is a little bit about your own favourite anchorages and your own favourite spots, particularly around the Solent for this episode today. Any particular own personal favourite?
Well, I think mine are probably the more obvious ones, particularly like Bewley at Needsore Point. That's a favourite of mine. And then Newtown Creek, although it can get very busy. And then I think actually if there's no westerly component in the wind, Topland Bay is actually really quite nice. So that's one where I quite enjoy anchoring. And then I sometimes anchor off Bembridge, which again I find quite nice, tucked away over on that eastern side of the Isle of Wight.
Is there something you wish you knew now that you would like to have known at the beginning of boat ownership?
I think there's some bits of experience or that I could pass on. I think whilst I've got a good knowledge of boat electronics, I wish I'd actually spent more time working on them so that I was more confident in what I'm doing. So yeah, my one tip would be is get to understand your electronics. Diesel engines are quite easy to work on, but boat electronics and boat power systems nowadays can be quite confusing, and you do need to understand them. And I think I would have liked to have had more practical, hands-on experience of working on them. The one thing I would say, though, is that one thing I have encountered quite a lot, which I'm sure many people will have, is that the knowledge of many tradespeople who call themselves professional, but in reality, they aren't quite as good as they like to think they are. And I'm kind of disappointed in a way that there seems to be no regulation whatsoever. When I come from my maritime background, we were ruled by Lloyd's Register and various other organizations, but fundamentally you can change your whole power system on a boat. You can put an arch on the back, you can put Dyneema rigging up, and you've changed the whole characteristic of your boat completely. And I sometimes worry that people don't quite understand what they've done to their boat. And I think the other thing is if you're going to spend time at anchor, and whilst we're talking about marinas today, we do spend time at anchor, is to fully understand your power requirements and how you're going to meet them. The ease of getting ashore, whether it be a dinghy with a on the back with davits or an e-propulsion motor or whatever, and then water management and production. So I think being self-sufficient at anchor is understand that and what you might need to do to your boat to change it, because whilst I don't mind living without not too much fresh water and it not being hot, there are many who come on the boat who like hot water and having their phones plugged in.
That's so beautifully put, Mark. And of course, it's not until you actually go and do it, and not until you go and live a little bit more life on the hook, that you actually really do appreciate the forward planning and, as you quite rightly said, the overarching kind of feel of what is it you're looking for when you're on the hook and what's realistic at the end of the day for that experience to be complete, to keep everybody on board happy. It is a lot to take into account, and there's not always, I say, good advice out there. It's not always comprehensive advice out there with the right people to talk to about this. In some ways, it's actually listening to people like yourself who've actually done it. So some really good sage words of advice there, I would say.
Well, as I say, opinions there are lots of them, let's put it that way. Those are a couple I would share. Because, boats can be very complicated now. I just think of my own boat with a lithium domestic power bank and spiral AGM, two separate banks, one to power the engine and one to do winches and windlasses and everything else, and solar feeding in and generators feeding in and the main engine feeding in. It starts to get a little bit complicated, and people need to know how to deal with that sort of stuff.
As we reach the end of today's episode, Mark, can I ask you for perhaps a little bit of a view from your perspective as to a recommendation to anybody considering using MDL or using a marina berth going forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing I have found with MDL is all of the marina managers tend to be very experienced folk, and they've been around for a while and within the MDL or under the MDL umbrella, which I quite like. So they know the contracts that you sign up to, they can explain them, and they have a wealth of knowledge. So I think from an MDL perspective, they do have some excellent marina managers, and as I say, the majority of the staff are really, really good. I quite like having the haul out facility on site. Most of the MDL marinas do have that haul out facility available to everyone, and that's useful to me. Again, I've chosen a marina which is close to my home, so it means I can get to my boat even when she's out on the hard and do stuff that I need to do. And I also think the Freedom berthing package and the packages on offer from MDL are quite progressive and help. I know there are cheaper packages around if you can get into those particular marinas, but I do think freedom berthing and the OTM offer and the links also to passport with scales is really positive. As I say, the one thing I would like to see is MDL have a couple more marinas around the UK, and that would be good.
Yeah, you mentioned passport because that really has given, I think, many people a chance to go and try a foreign port before COVID came in, at least, and hopefully it's opening up again now. For people to go and try a visit to somewhere else without it costing an arm and a leg, and that's quite important to give people more freedom of access, isn't it?
Absolutely. The one thing I would mention though is make sure you book out from your marina, your home marina, before activating your passport escales.
It's quite flexible, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, it's very flexible. You can get up to 5 days in each marina, and there are quite literally on the northwest coast of France. Tens of them. You can have 2 days, leave for 1 day and come back and do 2 days, and a total of 5 days in the marinas for free of charge. And that can be added on. You can pay for 2 days and have 2 free days and extend your stays that way. So there's huge amounts of flexibility.
Mark, a final one from me is just where next? What's next on the adventure list?
Well, you've been up in Scotland this year like I have, and my wife tells me that next year we're going somewhere warm.
Funny that conversation happened on this boat as well.
So I might be heading across to where I can use my passport escales to better effect.
As always, a massive thanks to all my guests for appearing in this edition. I hope you found their insights useful and that some of their views have given you some inspiration and ideas. Please do let me know your own thoughts on the areas we've talked about today, and hope you'll join me again soon for this Marina Life with MDL, the perfect berth for you and your boat.